for the rain, the crunch of pain, the ice is coming.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You look mighty fine this morning. Firstly, a huge thank you. I thank you for being here, for traveling, for leaving your families, for all the negotiation you had with your bosses to be here, but most of all for the contribution you're going to make over the next couple of days, because we're in this together and there's a lot of learning we have. Anyone know that walkout track? Just a show of hands, this is the audience participation bit. So London Calling, I'm going to talk a little bit about music today, and I was a punk, and that video was generated by AI based on some of my early photos with shaved bits of my head. And it was done by our staff, actually, without my knowledge originally, and obviously we fired them, but we kept the video. Music has always been part of my kind of life, yeah? And this summer, well, all the time, I go and see a lot of bands. And so this summer was no change. And so while Gustavo was at the Olympics in Paris, I was chasing various bands to enjoy the music. I happened to go to Taylor Swift, her last gig in London this summer. Any Swifties here? Yeah, my wife's a Swiftie, and hell, I'm not. A huge credit, 3.5 hours, a 3.5-hour concert without a break, but credit to me, 3.5 hours of muttering this mantra. If you listen carefully, I would be saying, happy wife, happy life, happy wife. But it was worth it. It was fabulous. So a big achievement for me this year was a bucket list of going to Glastonbury Festival. Anyone heard of Glastonbury Festival? So it's one of the biggest music festivals in the world. There's about 250,000 people over 5 days just completely immersed in crazy stuff. There's a lot of music. There's a lot of art. There was even a guy trying to break the world record for balancing a lawnmower on his head. So these are some of my pictures, and you can see Coldplay were a headliner, and Shania Twain was there, and Dua Lipa, and so on. And you're just completely immersed in this cacophony of sound. You know, if you're not at the main stages, and there's about 10 of those, the bars are pumping out, you know, small bands or DJs. The food around the site, and the site is big enough to be a small town. The food is incredible. But the color, the vibrant color, even I had multicolors on there. You can see, look, my lovely wife. And just a fabulous, fabulous event. But it goes against my earliest experiences of music. My earliest experiences were hearing music through the bedroom wall from my older brother. And his music was rock. Black Sabbath, Journey, Boston, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And the rockers of that time, they kind of looked like this. There was an absence of color, unlike Glastonbury. Well, with the exception of Kiss, but you get the point, yeah? And so the rockers at that time, the band was, well, let's have some guitars and maybe a drummer. Do we need the drummer? We could have more guitars. And about this time, as I became aware of music, I subscribed to a magazine called The New Musical Express. It was a cool magazine in the UK that told you who was up and coming and what you should be liking and what gigs were coming up. And at a certain point, the headlines were all about fear. The fear that electronic pop was bringing that could sign the death warrant, the end of rock music as we know it. Guitars and drums, the leather, the open shirts, the shaggy hair. And over on the right of your screen, you'll see these aliens that were landing and coming to join us, and Kraftwerk, and early Depeche Mode, and orchestral maneuvers, and Tangerine Dream, synthesizers, and drum machines, and not a lot of guitar. And so this started with fear. But what we know now is the electronics didn't replace guitars. They added to. It became additive. It became positive. Gradually, the styles integrated. I'm going to talk a little bit about change. But staying with music for a while, this wasn't the end of musical innovation at all. Because next came DJs. These were even more alien. They aren't even playing musical instruments. And yet they could fill halls. And then technology started moving. And suddenly we had iPods They were fabulous. I absolutely loved those. And now we all have a smartphone. We have access to the world's music in our pocket. And anyone can be a DJ. You can create your own playlist and send it to a friend. You don't have to turn up. Has anyone heard of Skrillex? So he's a DJ, fills huge venues. What's interesting about Skrillex is he's got 8 Grammys. It's a world record. And so while music has innovated with technology and trendsetters like Skrillex or other factors, it's still music, and it's still evolving, it's still moving on. And so what we have in our pocket now is a massively diverse range of musical genres. They seem to proliferate. But this has made the world better. This has given us more choice. But go back to this moment where rock bands discovered keyboards. And human emotions, and you can map this out more complex in the graph of how we deal with change. It frequently starts with fear. Oh, something's changing. How will that affect me? How will I adapt to that change? And with the keyboards, started with fear, according to the media anyway, that's all I knew. And then it moved to kind of inclusion, which was guitars and a drummer, and over there was someone with some twiddly bits of electronics. But it's still a rock band. But gradually, they got to business as usual, adoption, where the keyboards and synthesizers and the electronic drum machines were just another instrument that they could use to make different music. And suddenly you had bands like, if you look at even Pink Floyd and Yes and Genesis, where the fusion improved the choice for us. So I'm switching now to talk a little bit about technology, because we're in the middle of a change right now about AI. No, we're not. We're just beginning. We're just beginning. We're not in the middle of anything. But we are starting to move past some of our fear. What the hell is AI? Could someone write down what it is? I don't understand it. It seems like Emperor's New Clothes. Oh my God, is it going to do my job better than I'm doing it? Am I going to lose my job? What about the company? Are we safe? These startups are going to overtake us. Our business model is going to be obsolete, irrelevant. But what about the ethical side of AI? If you've read or seen the movie I, Robot, there's an ethical side to AI. And hey, we've all seen Terminator. Yeah? Doesn't end so well. But where we are right now is moving past fear, I believe. And we're moving into the early stages, the rock band that has a little twiddly bit in the middle for the keyboards. And what we're doing is taking things we already do and making them a little bit faster. I read on my journey out a phrase, hyper-automation. We've already automated with technology, with human intervention. Take out the human intervention, train the AI. But what we've not got to yet is the big nugget on the end, because this is going to change our world. Think about the internet. Think about the World Wide Web. Companies disappeared. Even more frightening. Business models disappeared because people ask the question, do we need to do it the way we've already done it? That question is going to hit us even more, I predict even more, than the World Wide Web. So with AI, do we even need to do this? So what do we do about this? Fear and dread and worry, and some will win and some will lose, but what do we do? And so now I want to talk about being ready. Being ready as a person, being ready as a company to deal with change. So we started talking about keyboards threatening guitarists, and now we're talking about our world today and the change that's coming at us. A few weeks ago, Tim Cook stood on stage and launched the iPhone 16. Impressive. Does anyone know that a very small number of seconds after he announced it, you could pre-order this product in stores and web shops around the world? Now think about this for a moment. So let's wind back the time. So as Tim Cook is about to go on stage, where is that product data? Well, it's locked down in the vaults of Apple in a data store. And I'm not going to say whose data store it is, but there's a twinkle in my eye. Twinkle. And very few people had access to that. But the minute Tim to me now, I think I should call him Mr. Cook. As soon as Mr. Cook said, we're good to go, the button was pressed and this data surged out there to take advantage of new product innovation and seize the market when our passion was high because we were so excited. Apple were ready. I'm talking about readiness. Apple were ready. On the right of the screen, from our home country, Salling, I have to double check myself. I've been coached so many times. It's Salling, not Sailing, not it's Salling. Salling Group is a chain of department stores, and they're wonderful stores to go into. And they had taken the decision not to put up a web shop because they wanted you to come in and upsell and cross-sell. Change happened. You know what the change was? It was the pandemic. It wasn't a good change. Within 60 days, they launched their web shop. They were up and running, and it kept them profitable throughout the pandemic because they were ready. So what does ready mean? Ready, I like to think there's a culture of innovation in a company, a willingness to experiment, a willingness to fail early, grabbing change. But to do that, you need agility, and agility often comes from the technology infrastructure, that you can change direction, you can pivot. Pivot, anyone? And guess what else is necessary? It's data, and data to know, are we on the right track or the wrong track? And it's not just data, it's trustworthy data. Trustworthy data. You're going to hear that phrase many times in the next 2 days. And what is it? It's many things, but it's data we can rely on. Data that we don't need to debate its provenance and whether it's up to date and where it came from. It's data that we can move straight on to say, how does that impact us? What do we do? So trustworthy data is a really important part of being ready. You can innovate around new products as Apple. You can defend yourself about negative changes like the pandemic, like Salling Group did. You can adopt and adapt to technology changes like AI. Question I'm asking you is, are you ready? And you're in this room, so you're already partway there, I guarantee. Trustworthy data is a component of that. You have the infrastructure. Questions about you and your company's readiness to experiment and try and fail. Because what we've seen is Apple are ready, and Salling Group are ready. And you know who else is ready? Marriott International. So we're here today in this absolutely beautiful Marriott property. We've been enjoying the bars, the gym, the facilities. It's a great, great property. Many of you won't realize that Marriott are in the middle of a change in their business model, really. They're moving from a lodging company into a true retail platform. And this is supporting their vision of becoming a travel marketplace.